Hello guys, this is Damadoc82 and we are in From the Depths version 2.7 whatever. You're probably wondering what kind of heresy is this and why are you in this later version? Well, the reason being is I wanted to see if I could try to show you guys how to make a submarine, and I thought it would probably be better to do it through a more up-to-date user interface, so then that way you guys aren't lost in the menus and whatnot. So basically there are three different types of submarines that you can make. I'll be sure to put timestamps in the description below, so you guys can just like skip to whatever version that you think would best suit your needs. The first one is, it basically uses hydrofoils to control its depth. The second version, it uses PID controlled thrusters, and that's how it maintains its depth. And the third type uses air pumps. The third type is a little bit more complicated than the other two. I don't know if I'm going to go over how to do that or not, but we'll go ahead and start building a hull here. And I plan on doing this in like a time lapse, probably at like 2 times speed, just fast enough to where you guys don't have to like sit through me trying to build this for like forever, but at the same time have it slow enough to where you can kind of see what I'm doing. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and start the time lapse. So let's do this. Okay guys, I believe the hull is done, so let me just give you a quick idea what I've done here. I added a sonar buoy. I prefer using sonar buoys than actually have like fixed sonar because it makes a submarine harder to detect. Especially if the enemy is using like what's it called, the passive sonar. I also have like 4 torpedo tubes here, which I probably should go ahead and set up. Sorry, I probably should have done this during the build, but anyway. I'm just gonna go with the same build I use with like every one of my torpedoes. Torpedo sonar at the front. We're going to put a torpedo propeller at the back, of course. Here we're going to put a ballast tank, 1 turn, APN guidance. I think that's about all this needs. 40 seconds, and it's got, whoa, that's way too much fuel. Okay. I think I'll go ahead and add a regulator to this. Yeah, that seems fine. Okay. So yeah, the idea with this torpedo is with the regulator, it's going to give it quite a long range. The APN guidance, it's going to help it track its targets better. Let's go ahead and max that out. 1 turn basically means that after it is released from the submarine, it could probably go about any direction that it chooses to do so. And ballast tanks, this will give it the ability to track surface targets and other submarines. Okay, so yeah, pretty much a standard torpedo that I use in a lot of things. You don't necessarily have to pack these full of explosives. You can pretty much do it however you want. I just prefer explosives because they get a damage bonus for attacking targets underwater. Over here with the local weapon control, you always want to range we're not worried about, but anyways, with the local weapon controller, you want to make sure that it doesn't try to shoot for targets that are above a certain altitude. So, oh, that's the wrong thing. Where's, okay. Sorry, I'm not quite used to this. I think I like the original UI better, but yeah, probably not a big surprise to a lot of you guys since I play this in 2.4.9. I think I'm going to set this to about 15. Yeah, it's okay to have this just a little bit higher than normal because it sometimes when you have aircraft that fall in the water, then it'll make the torpedoes go for them sooner, and also it could theoretically be aiming for a block that's above the water line too, so yeah. I think that's all good for now. We're not going to worry about range, and I already set up the target prioritization card to go for lowest and slowest. Over here on the AI, we're going to add a behavior, and we want to go with, we're just going to go with a plain old naval AI. We want this thing to enter broadside. Actually, hold on. Let's have this go out to maybe, I think 2,000 meters probably be fine. Leave broadside at 3,000 meters. Broadside minimum range, let's make that 2,500 meters. Nominal broadside angle, we'll go 90. So this submarine will stay perpendicular to its target while it's just throwing torpedoes at it. So, okay. So now I want to, well, let's just pop a seed in here. And I just want to check to make sure that the torpedoes will... Yep. Seem to be working fine. Just want to make sure that they would have enough oomph to go out there without the ejector. Anyway. So we got 4 props here on the back just to give it a lot of speed here. Just a regular old rudder for turning. Oh yeah, I imagine you guys probably already saw this during the time lapse. I have a automated control block here to fire off its sonar buoy at the start of well, whenever it spawned in every 40 seconds, which is about the reload time, or well, not necessarily the reload time, but the light time of the sonar buoy. And I think we might need just a little bit more processing power. Sorry, I probably should have done this shit during the time lapse. But there. That should probably be fine. This submarine is just basically for demonstration purposes. You could build one basically, you know, whatever shape you want. I'm just trying to go with something that sort of resembles a submarine. So yeah, back here we got our ammo production. About midway is the ammo storage. Actually, let me just ditch the armor blocks so you can see. I just tried to see if I could segregate these so then that way when, or if the ammo goes up, it won't entirely take out the submarine with it. And down here we got its electric engine. I probably need to set this just I think I wanted to do about maybe 400 power just to run those back there. Okay. So yeah, we have ourselves a working submarine now. Well, not quite a working one, but at least a hull for it. Okay guys, so I just made some changes to the submarine here. I tried to make better use of this room here in the back, so I kind of reorganized it a bit. Also, I went back here to all these thrusters and I reduced their power use to just 1x. On default, they use like 6 times the power for 4 times the force, and it was just eating up the battery way too fast. So yeah. Also, I went and added some hydrofoils to the front. Now this here is probably the easiest method to make a submarine dive in FTD is by using hydrofoils. And you just place them kind of like any other block. The direction of the placement block here, the bit in green, it's always going to be pointing what direction that the hydrofoil is going to be facing when it's placed. So you can just place them like so, and they also generate just a little bit of drag, which drag is always something that you want to try to minimize, so your engines don't need to use as much power for as much speed. So I went and put these little decorative fins around it to try to reduce drag. And we got some fins back here, but we're saving those for later. Also, something else I should note with the hydrofoils here is while this is probably the easiest method to use in FTD, it's very reliant on the submarine going forward for it to work properly. If it goes backward, it's going to make it surface, because well, the hydrofoils are going to be working in reverse. So yeah, it's very important that you have forward propulsion for this to work. Now, after you got your hydrofoils placed in the correct orientation, you're going to need a couple of ACBs. Now, this ACB up here, it's going to set the hydrofoils to point downward at -45 degrees when the altitude of it is at -40 8 meters or infinitely up. So anywhere between these two numbers, that's when these are going to start pointing down. And just to show you how I got it set up in the ACB here, this is what it should look like. Now up here, remember we got to use the vehicle altitude setting right here to set this. Now over here in the target in action, you have to have this all the way down to negative 45 degrees and make sure that this set angle is selected. Now for making it go back up to maintain a certain depth, once I try to make this where it hangs out maybe about 50 and some odd meters below the surface, so it's going to bump between like about 48 and 52 meters below the surface. So this is what this one's going to come on whenever it gets below negative 52 meters. Basically it's set up in a similar fashion, except the configuration here for the altitude, it's going to be a little different. And also over here, it's going to be set hydrofoils, of course, and down here it's going to be set to 45 degrees to make it go back up. So basically what's going to happen is this thing's going to kind of ping pong between negative 48 and negative 52 meters. So we're going to go ahead and let it drop back down into the water. And let the thrusters kick on. And there we go. It's going back up. It's going to go back down. It's just going to keep bouncing forth, back and forth just like that. It's probably not perfect because it's just going to keep overcorrecting like this back and forth, but this is essentially a functional submarine, believe it or not. So yeah, that's just one of the easier methods that you could do it. It's not exactly my favorite either because it takes a little while for that to balance out. As you can see, it's kind of stabilized here. Finally it had to go up and down, up and down, up and down, and that's finally where it's happy. So, but like I said, this is probably the easiest way to do it because there's not a whole lot of extra work to it, aside from placing the hydrofoils and setting up the ACBs correctly. So next we're going to go to a version where this is going to be controlled by ACB. So I'll be right back with that. Okay, so here I have the submarine in the next configuration. This one uses PIDs. The four that are here on these fins here that are on all four corners of the submarine, these are set to have a pitcher and roller control, and you want to have these about to where I got them here. Also, something else that you want to be aware of is this power output. Be sure that isn't set to the default because it's going to use like up all of your power. Since an update not too long back, these things can be a hell of a lot more powerful, but they use up 6 times more power for like 4 times the thrust or something like that. So yeah, we don't want these things to be burning up all the energy that's currently stored in the batteries, so that's why I reduced these. Same thing with the propellers on the back. I reduced them all to 1, so then that way they are not using up too much power as well. Same thing with these guys here. And like I said earlier, that these are going to be controlling the pitch and roll. These ones on the inside here, though, those are going to be controlling our altitude. And just to show you guys what the settings look like on that, I just have it set to pusher preset. Of course, I have this set for 1, and have this. Well, it'll automatically set this one whenever you set it for pusher preset. And that's basically the same on all 4 corners. So now we're going to let the submarine go. And I purposely had the this maneuver turned off because it was going to cause us issues trying to make this work right. Anyway, make sure that that's active. Adjustments, we want to turn off reverse. And got that set, okay. Now, when it drives forward, it should maintain altitude pretty well. It's moving at a pretty good speed too, which pretty good considering that these are they're not maxed out for like what I was saying earlier, where the propulsion was eating up like 6 times the power for 4 times the force generated. But the submarine is stabilized in roll and pitch. So now let's have a little fun with it. I just want to make sure that this is set up correctly. When I was testing it out earlier, I noticed that this was not set up right. For some crazy reason, it seemed like the default was over here and it wasn't engaging any target, so I had to set it all the way back down. So, okay. So now let's bring ourselves in a couple of Marauders. And up go the torpedoes. Now, with torpedoes, you want to have about a 2-second delay, especially if they're high explosive torpedoes. Mainly because when they impact, the explosions are going to knock any other torpedoes off target. If you have like an EMP frag one, you probably don't have to worry about a delay at all, to be honest. Something also that I should probably note that when I was trying to figure out the power issues, I increased the amount of power generation that we had here in the back and reduced the number of ammo processors. So just yeah, added more RTGs, try to make better use of the space back here. That's pretty much all I did with that. So now there's a final method that I can show you guys, and I actually already have it kind of set up for this. I have this one set up to work in conjunction with air pumps, and there's an air pump in here. And I don't think I have one in here, so we'll go ahead and pop that one in. And I think I put an air... Nope, I don't have one towards the back. There we go. And that just... If you do it with this, it just gives you a little bit more redundancy. I've actually seen people have the submarine depth and roll and pitch and everything completely controlled by the air pumps. It's probably a bit too advanced for what I want to do in a video, so I'd at least try to show you guys how the altitude setting is set up on it. So let's go ahead and have a look inside the PID here. I have the fake point set to -50, and I have it set for air pump fraction control, and I have the input set for altitude above waves. So pretty much the biggest challenge that people will have in building submarines is just trying to maintain the depth. More than anything is probably what you're going to have problems with. Personally, I prefer the PID method. You can kind of mix and match them a bit. I have had submarines where I've used like all 3 methods in conjunction just to give it a little bit of redundancy. But the hydrofoil one, that one's it can be a little bit tricky sometimes, because you really have to play around with it to see what hydrofoil setting is going to work best for the craft that you're working on. So I hope this was useful for you guys. I'll try to put these different versions of the Submarine up on the workshop for you guys to use. Also, I will be putting, like I mentioned earlier, timestamps in the video description so you can look at the different types of methods that I've discussed here with you guys. So I'd like to thank you all for watching. This has been Damodoc82 with the Submarine tutorial. I'd like to thank you all for watching. Have yourselves a hell of a day and keep your hammer high. Later.